What's one thing that made you say never f***ing again and why? Attempting to catch my dog's shit in the bag rather than picking it up from the ground. Seemed like a good idea. Dog pooped up my arm. Had a long walk back home through my neighborhood covered in sh. Never again. Purchased a bag of 150 mint Mentos as a study snack. Got stuck into an assignment and somehow ate the entire bag over a 12-hour period. Next day my partner and I walked our dogs down to a cafe. Stomach becomes sore while we drink our coffee. I look to the toilet but it's a busy cafe with a single toilet. Figure I'll just wait to do my business back home, about a half-hour walk away. As we start walking back I begin to sweat. Cramps become unbearable. Give my partner the dog lead and tell her I need to run. She doesn't know what's going on. I start sprinting, which then makes the stomach cramps so much worse. Realize I'm not going to make it. Almost crying from the stomach cramps. See a bush. Can't hold it. Pull pants down. Don't quite succeed. Shit everywhere. Bush isn't concealed. Other dog walkers walk past and dog runs up. Mortified. Still can't stop shitting. Partner sees me. My pug happy to see me. Runs straight up and into my Mentos diarrhea. Haven't eaten Mentos ever again. It's a fun story now but god did that day suck. Partner loves to bring it up at dinner parties. Law school. I applied and got in because my parents thought I would be a good fit. I stuck out the first year because I was heavily influenced into thinking my career paths only included law, engineering or medicine. After the first year I was miserable and depressed, dropped out and now I'm doing something that I'm passionate about and is less saturated than law. My dad is still trying to convince me to pursue a JD. Yesterday I was in a hurry and not being very safe and put a 1/4 drill bit through my hand. Could have been 100% avoided by taking even the slightest of safety precautions but I was frustrated and rushing to finish. Never again will I not take the simple moments to do it correctly. Trusting voicemails. Back in the mid-2000s, I got one of those scam calls saying that I owed a lot of money and needed to call them to get an account squared. I was scared and didn't want police coming after me. I was torrenting a buttload of movies and TV shows at the time and didn't want them seizing my computer. I called them up and asked them how to get this figured out, assuming that a couple grand would be worth the fines and jail time. I kept asking questions. I kept imploring for more information. I wanted to know exactly what account I was giving to, the name of my contact there, and exactly which Walmart their payment partner was distributing their money cards. I was legitimately terrified, but I think my constant questions spooked them. They said good luck in court, we're sending the police now, and hung up. That was the moment I started to realize this might not be a legitimate thing. I tried calling them back, got somebody to pick up, and when I read them back my case number and contact name, they said to stop wasting their time and hung up again. I did a bit of research, and by a bit, I mean literally 2 seconds on Google and discovered that police and banks won't call you to resolve outstanding debts, and they certainly won't give you just 1 hour to fix it. I felt really dumb falling for a scam, but also felt really lucky that the scammers couldn't answer my deluge of questions. Nowadays, I independently verify every single thing. Voicemail, email, text. If you put a phone number or URL in that thing, I'm going to skip it and take the scenic route instead. I'll call my bank's branch directly using the number listed on their official website. I'll contact a company using their official customer service line. I'll sign into my own account using my own bookmark or search result, and not use the login button in the email. Since then, I've had very good luck avoiding scams and blocking these overseas criminals. They almost got me once, but afterwards, never fricking again. Getting an endometrial biopsy. Worst pain of my life. If I ever get cancer they can just take the whole damn uterus out. I'm not going through that again without anesthesia. I had my gallbladder removed after a gallstone. I thought I was having a heart attack and called an ambulance. While I waited I started arrange all of my finances for my wife. The hospital ran a zillion tests, told me it was a gallstone, and the only real solution was to remove the whole gallbladder if it came back. If it came back? Yup. Fuck that shit. I told the doctor I would never go through that pain again and he could schedule me for surgery then and there. I've had women tell me the pain from a gallstone lodged in the duct is worse than childbirth and I believe them. No way was I going through that again. Alcohol and cocaine. Almost ruined my life. Started drinking at 16. Started doing coke at 26, and took till I was damn near 41 to quit. Dumped my last baggie of blowout beside my garage 23 years ago and haven't touched the since. Making friends with people because you feel bad for them. Be nice but no more than that is required. Pity is no reason to start a friendship and it never turns out well, neither for them nor for you. My ex. We were giving long distance a shot. It was an on and off relationship for like 3 years. I traveled 18 hours to see him only to find out he had been cheating on me and no one from his circle even knew I existed. I cried for a straight 18 hours bus ride back home. Never fricking again. When I was like 11 I had some friends, the kids that lived next door, over and we were just hanging out, playing video games all night. My mom ordered Papa John's for us. We tore the pizza up like the ravenous savages we were and continued gaming. That night the boy stayed over while his sisters and little brother went back home. We go to bed that night and at some point one of us, can't remember who, began to throw up, which woke the other one up. My mom rushes in and helps clean up the mess. Once the vomiting stops we go back to bed. But then before long ITD start again. Just like before, sometimes I was first, sometimes it was him. Sometimes we could get to the bathroom on time, sometimes we couldn't. My mother, the saint of a woman she is, cleaned up all of that vomit. Apparently things were no better at their house. To this day some 15 years later I refuse to eat Papa John's. I'm sure it was just a one-time thing but once was enough. Peppermint essential oil. Why? My darling spouse read online you could use it on lady bits to provide a tingling sensation. Decided to do so to me. Didn't read the bit about majorly diluting it first. The result? The sensation of 1000 fire ants biting my most intimate parts while simultaneously being submerged in lava. And since it's an oil, washing it off did jack sh. I sobbed in a half-full bathtub whilst rubbing my cooch with a towel doused in vegetable oil, the remedy, according to the internet. 0/10 do not recommend never again edit, a number. Amniocentesis, having a giant needle stuck through my pregnant belly and being dug around to get a sample triggered my fight flight and I was sweating so much from the intensity. I didn't watch while they did it but my mother-in-law was there and started crying while they were digging around. She held my hand, looked at me with tears in her eyes and tried to calmly say it's okay, you're okay. I still have nightmares about it 10 years later. Living with a couple. Roommates suck in general but 3 times in my life I split an apartment with a couple and it was awkward at best, and truly miserable when they fought. Driving through an intersection immediately upon my light changing to green. Some a-hole ran a red one day and almost T-boned me on the driver's side. Never again. I always wait for a few seconds before I start driving through an intersection, longer if there is a blind corner. Working retail. I think it's something every young person should do. Once. People suck, especially with our bullshit culture of the customer is all the way right. Extending an olive branch to my father, to make peace with him. As a child, he didn't want to know me. But I knew even then that the time would come when I would be an adult and he would want to get to know me. I tried repeatedly as I was growing to find common ground, stability, freaking anything with him. Nah. I tried adopting his interests, talking to him about things he gave a shit about. Nah. I tried involving him with things I was passionate about. Nah. Well, sure enough, as an adult now that he's retired and his health isn't what it used to be, he wants to get to know me. Get fucked pumped. There is no way in hell I am letting him into any part of my life to frick it up some more. 20 fricking years. He had 20 fucking years to get to know me until I moved away and got him out of my life. Nah, I'm good without you, bro. Meth. I was a hardcore amphetamine pill addict and said frick it one night and smoked a shload of meth. I was up for 2 or 3 days. By the last day I was well into psychosis and left town. Stayed in a hotel room for a few days to make sure I didn't become a meth addict and to evaluate what the frick I was doing with my life. I didn't stop the pills immediately, but I'm never fricking doing meth again. Open up my home to help someone. She ended up being a manipulative, miserable cuss of a person who made my and my children's lives miserable. My husband, now ex, refused to see beyond her vagina and ignored his own kids' pleas for help. Kids and I moved out and he's now miserable and alone with no relationship with his kids. Cunt left him at the first sign of his financial troubles. Go on an overseas tour with a close friend. Always do a mini trip or spend a weekend with them exploring a new place to test the waters. I went on an overseas trip with someone who was constantly late, couldn't pay for anything, didn't want to do any of the activities we had planned, sulked around. The list goes on. We had completely different travel styles. She wanted to sleep in. I wanted to organize things, be on time and plan ahead. Basically our travel styles just did not mesh. I ended up having such a bad time I booked a flight home. Would never again go on a holiday with her again or any friend with a similar personality. Never again. Getting back together with an ex. If it didn't work out the first time, it's likely that it won't the second time either. Especially if the person relationship was toxic to begin with. Working at McDonald's, no need to elaborate. Debating on the internet. Too many people think of like a competition you can win with a snappy comeback. Too many people forget they're talking to actual people and actually try to see their side of things. Now instead I try to rationalize my position and see their side. The only problem is I still end up arguing with people who are just there to mock me or to make snappy comebacks. Never argue with an idiot. They'll drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. Left double quotation mark. Skydiving. I did my first and only jump free fall with 2 instructors at the same time at 9k feet, i.e. no static line or tandem. In hindsight, not the best or safest idea. I had bungee jumped multiple times before, so I figured I'd handle it correctly. Well, it was an interesting day, but the part that got me was after the instructors caught up to me and stabilized me. I was reaching for the cord but couldn't seem to find it. That's when I realized that I could very possibly die if I didn't find it. Luckily either I pulled it or the instructors did. I'm pretty sure they did. But the part that really fricked with me was when the chute started to open, and as the instructors weren't there anymore, that I realized that if the parachute malfunctioned I'd be dead. I knew that it had a 9,999,999% chance of working correctly, but if something did happen, I wouldn't be able to stabilize myself and probably not be able to break away the main chute and pull the reserve soon enough. I didn't have time to think about any of that at the time as I was focused on what I needed to do in case, but it pretty much took away any future plans I ever had on continuing that hobby. It's an odd feeling knowing that you literally have 5 seconds to make a decision without the experience to help yourself. Ate a whole bag of cooked Chinese peanuts so my shitty was I stuck on the shit for hours on end and I couldn't leave the house without risking shitting myself. Getting romantically involved with a coworker. Edit, the YM, 50ish. I'm a slow learner. Took 3 times. Seeing her all day long and I'm the type of person who appreciates needs me time. At larger companies maybe not as big an issue. Hats off to all those who have made it work. Edit, thank you for the silver, kind person. IMS. Tried it twice to help with some sciatica I have developed since working at my job, a lot of ladder work. I was in a 2-story building on the bottom floor, and after they put the how many needles in my back, ass, and legs, all I could think about was how I'll live in an earthquake zone and if one happened right now I'd die with these frackin' needles in me. I tried to be a rational person though and not cave to fear, and I really wanted help, so I tried it once or maybe even twice more. The last time they pulled the needle out of my hamstring at the back of my thigh I wept. It wasn't a relief thing though, it was just pure pain and I was overwhelmed. My partner gets acupuncture and it really helps her, but it is not for me. I don't mind needles for things that need them, but never fricking again for IMS for me. Having an IUD put in. Fucking blindsided by the pain. Edit, I can't reply to you all, but I'm so sorry so many of us have had such a horrible experience with this. We deserve better, more empathetic doctors who take our pain seriously. Hanging out with someone who's a self-admitted a-hole. He proved himself right. Edit, RIP inbox. Thanks for all of the upvotes and rewards. My highest upvoted comment is now about trusting an a-hole. Edit 2, I thought he was being self-deprecating. Not literal. Commenting you should have believed him or anything to that effect is no longer valid. Everyone else has already said it. Doing cocaine for 8 straight hours. The come down was quite possibly the most hellish experience of my life. Believing words over behavioral patterns. I have been present for the kind of people who only take from you and then they forget. But they sweet talk you into believing otherwise. It's baffling how I have been conned by so many of these people who seem to appear nice. Just in the last couple days for me actually. Was trying to unclog earwax with a Q-tip like an idiot and now I'm waiting on a doctor's appointment to address the terrible tinnitus I have developed. Praying it's impacted earwax and not a perforated drum. I will never put any hard objects in my ear again. The tinnitus is maddening. I have cried so much. Edit, thank you Reddit, you gave me some comfort. Drinking and driving. Thought I was fine to drive home. I got on the freeway. Went to go over 1 lane. Next thing I realize I've gone over 4 lanes and I'm about to hit the cement barrier. Scared me enough to never do it again. Seeing the red flags and coming up with excuses for his actions. 5 years in an abusive relationship and finally got out. Never will I ignore the signs again. I took a psych medication that shouldn't have been on the market, what with its controversial history. It was definitely not right for me. It blocked and destroyed just about all of my dopamine receptors. As someone who'd never suffered from depression or anxiety in my life until that point, I would literally rather burn alive than go through this last year again. Complete lack of interest in being alive is way worse than anything else. It's been 332 days and though the worst of the severe depression and anxiety is over, I'm never going to be the same. It crushed my will to live for a long time and I almost died in the hospital. For months I kept breathing and eating, each hour feeling like an agonizing day. If it wasn't for my wife, I'd be dead, 100%. I quit that medication cold turkey and I guess you aren't supposed to do that. Apparently it's significantly harder to recover coming off of that stuff than hard drugs, because it does what they do, only in full. The difference being that I wasn't addicted to those pills, thankfully, not how that works. Overall, The recovery process for the stuff to leave my brain took about 300 days, and now for the D2 receptors to be fully healed takes another 290 days after that. So I have another 258 days of recovery to go. All because I did one medication trial that lasted for just 28 days. A number of people in my family, including men in the 50-60 age range, ended up opening up to me about their depression. I felt so terrible because I used to brush mental illness like that off, especially when I joined the army. Although I'd mock them, so they never said anything until I talked about my symptoms. I loved life and I aspire to love life again, and when I get better and get things back on track, I'm going to not be an a-hole to depressed people ever again. Edit. Sorry, everyone. I should have mentioned that the medication was paliperidone. It's an antipsychotic and it was originally prescribed for my schizoaffective disorder. I don't know if certain antidepressants that some people are asking about are similar in their half-life duration. I also believe paliperidone is a selective reuptake inhibitor, but I have no idea which medications may be similar, or if any one person may experience the same thing I did. If you're uncertain about your medications, do as much research as you can. Talk to people who have used them, research the side effects, and don't stop taking them suddenly if they aren't working properly. You may have to wean off slowly. No matter what happens, remember that though things can take a very long time to get better, you'll be okay in the end. Just don't ever give up. That's what I wish someone had told me, because it's hard to know at the time. It doesn't feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but there absolutely is. If anyone has any other specific questions, feel free to PM. My inbox is blowing up, but I'll try to reply soon. Had a girlfriend who cheated on me. She wasn't the first woman to do so, but she was the first one I went back to after breaking up with her over it. Huge mistake. Monumental freaking mistake. I immediately realized why I have a rule about not giving second chances for that kind of thing. I'm a pretty reasonable guy, and I'll let a ton of stuff slide, but that's a line that doesn't get crossed twice. College class at 8 AM as a night owl. Edit. While this blew up. RIP my notifications. The awards are appreciated. Thank you. Also, while a majority agrees with me, a few have said wait till you get a job, etc. I worked as a salaried manager while in college. I was required to work a minimum of 48 hours, so I did that while full-time in school. Plus homework, exams, rehearsals, performances, etc. That's why I said never again. I entered the workforce at 14 and worked 20-30 hours during the school week and full-time over the summer. After college I continued working as a salaried manager for both restaurants and retail alike, eventually becoming a multi-unit manager. I still preferred working nights though even after graduating. As a junior with a finance major, as in lots of upper level finance courses, I scheduled all of my classes one semester for Tuesday and Thursday. 8 AM to 6:30 PM. 4-day weekends. 1-day break in the middle. I can sleep in most days of the week. Awesome, right? No. Not awesome. Tests all came at once and I had to be up early to study for 3-4 exams in one day. Let alone I literally was running around campus to get to my classes in time due to being a packed schedule all day. And let's be honest, 21-year-old me wasn't using 4-day weekends for homework or studying. Oh, that was a rough semester. Jajabums. Something about Jaeger makes me violently ill. Being stone cold sober, puking your guts up in the nightclub toilets is not a good way to start the night, especially when security thinks you're drunk and are considering kicking you out. Drinking enough coffee to kill a small animal. The crash was absolute hell. I grew up not having a sense of responsibility. At the first sign of hardship I would dump my job thinking I don't need this and proceeding to stay unemployed for a few months until I found something I thought was worth my time. Until one day I woke up to an empty freezer and nothing more than a tortilla. Yes, I'm Mexican. To eat for the day for myself and my mother. I will not let that ever happen again. Planet Fitness. They wanted me to come into the gym with COVID in order to cancel. The only other option was to send a certified letter, which I would have had to walk into a post office in order to send, which was equally bad. Never freaking again. I'm buying a treadmill and weight set. Lying to my friends and family about what I'm feeling. For the majority of my life since I was 10 I have contemplated suicide and had several failed attempts. Became a hard alcoholic and reached rock bottom at the age of 30. Made another attempt with pills and booze and was convinced this time was the last. Woke up to my childhood best friend alternating between pulling my head over a toilet while gagging and him dunking my head in cold water in the tub. 3 years of struggling sobriety later I am still here. I promised I'd never make him go through that again. Weirdly cathartic telling to a bunch of strangers this online. Doing acid after having been up for a long period of time. Did it to myself several times, but the worst time I'd already been up for 46 hours when I dropped, and was up for another 9 or so. I was in a hotel room, to put it simply, in downtown Fort Lauderdale. We tripped at the Lauderdale beach for about 3 hours, and honestly it was a great time. What initially sent me spiraling was when we noticed we'd gotten a parking ticket, and one of my buddies tossed it out the window. 2 hours later I was furiously sweeping sand off my hotel room floor because it kept sticking to my feet. I did that for about an hour and then had a mental breakdown under my covers because I heard demons screaming and thought they were coming to take me to hell. It was muscle cars and motorcycles on the corner showing off, and passed out after every object capable of moving like a mouth was telling me to sleep. I knew I was hallucinating because the mini fridge light didn't come on when the door opened to talk. I will never drop again if I've already been awake for 6+ hours. Unless it's a half dose, but you get the idea. Got pulled over by a cop for having a tail light out. I had killed some beers 4 hours earlier in the afternoon. I had waited until I knew I was sober enough to drive. However, my buddy was in the car, and he had just killed a beer before stepping in the vehicle. Cop leans in, after seeing my license and registration. Tells me, "Sir, I'm getting a strong scent of alcohol from inside the car. When was the last time you drank?" I claimed it had been last week, and he has me step out and perform the entire sobriety test, walking in a line and everything. He even has the decency to tell me before initiating the test, "Now you can tell me why you lied to me." Like I said, I had waited until I felt sober enough to drive. I knew that as long as I was polite, respectful, and played it as professionally as possible, I would likely get out without being asked to take a breathalyzer test, so I performed each of the tests with my heart pounding out of my chest until the officer says to me, "Well, you seem fine." I still got a scent of alcohol from the car. "Was that your friend?" I respond, "Oh, that's definitely him." He even hands me some type of card to get a discount on a new taillight and lets me go. Yes, that put the motherfucking fear of God in me when it comes to driving while inebriated in any fashion whatsoever, and I still thank God it didn't turn out any differently. Since then I've basically been the go-to DD for many of my friends. Drinking about 5 cans of Spike energy drink in one sitting. Ended up awake the whole night and into the morning. What? Speed dating? Why? Took me weeks to recover from that horrible experience. My whole family decided never fricking again after my dad convinced us all to attend a charity performance of the musical Lilac Time. I bet you've never heard of it. I hadn't heard of it before I went. Don't bother looking it up, it's Not only was it a shmusical, the only trained singer in the whole cast was the leading lady. The leading man couldn't hold a tune to save his life and was so bad that during one song he pulled the leading lady off key for 2 whole bars before her professional training kicked in and she got back on track. And they did that swaying thing that amateur musicals seem to default to when they don't receive adequate direction. And it went for 3 freaking hours. After that, my dad never dared ask anyone in his family to any performance ever again, and my grandma carried a grudge until the day she died. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment.